something we're not going to discuss tonight. There's a 3-minute limit. Does anyone want to make any public input other than on the agenda item for tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. We'll do a development update from Troy.
Yes, Commissioner, we've got Copper Knolls. As you can see, they're finally getting the perimeter fence completed and the gates on and the lights are on now as well on the street. So they're getting a couple steps closer to having that done and for us to do our final walkthrough on all the public improvements. Ani Ranch on Copper Canyon Road, they're still doing a lot of the infrastructure installation, digging the ponds, a lot of dirt work going on over there. So we're keeping an eye on that on a regular basis as well. Williams Ranch, they are pouring the final 2 lots, they're slabs. So that's well underway and probably will wrap up this year for sure. So, but that's what's going on with development.
Just out of curiosity, what is going on with the lot on Orchid Hill that seems to be building itself up a mountain?
So 340 Orchid Hill, talked to the contractor on Friday. So now they're leveling out the dirt and they're watering it in and they're following the grading permit that was issued to them to do that lot the way that they're doing it. The intent is to shape that lot so all the water falls towards Orchid Hill into the bar ditch up front. And so we'll make sure that they follow the plan in which they submitted and we had approved for that.
Great. Anybody else have any questions on development? All right, moving on. We have a consent item, which was approving the December 1, 2025 minutes of our meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Our next item is a public hearing and discussion item. So a couple of points I'd like to make before we start on that. Number one is tonight is the first step. At the end of tonight's public hearing, we will hold it open. We will adjourn it temporarily for 2 weeks until our January 26th meeting, when we will open it up again. So people will have an opportunity tonight. They will have also an opportunity in 2 weeks. That's number one. Number two, the town council, I understand, is going to do the same thing. They're going to have a public input, a public hearing. They're going to leave it open and reconvene it in 2 weeks for the next council meeting. So there's 4 opportunities to make yourself heard. Now, and then I guess lastly, I'd point out that we've sometimes been a little more transparent. We sometimes respond to people's comments in the course. In theory, we're not supposed to do that. The public hearing is for the public, and we're supposed to be here like Dr. Fraser Crane and say, we're listening. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We are not in a position to respond to anybody's comments. You may make them, we'll listen, and that's the rule. So we have a number of people who want to speak tonight. Now, we'll open the public hearing at, what time we got here? 6:04 p.m. And it's to conduct a public hearing to hear public comment and discuss an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the town relating to aviation activities, including Exhibit 14A zoning ordinance, Article 2, General District Zoning Regulations, Section 2-102, Use Yard Bulk Requirements, A, use groups below residential, by adding, quote, aviation activities, helistop, heliport, hang glider, ultralight, and any other aviation activity, close quote, subsection, and by amending Exhibit 14A zoning ordinance, Article 1, definitions, Section 11-102, words and terms, aviation activity, aviation facility, heliport, helistop, limited use, operator, the town, to provide definition, and by amending Exhibit 14A zoning ordinance, Article 4, supplementary revision, by adding subsection 4-122, aviation activities to include purpose, permitting, exceptions for emergency use, application requirements for temporary operations, design and operational standards, enforcement, and providing for a severability and effective date clause. I am not reading that again. So we are now open to public hearing. We have a number of people who have indicated they'd like to speak. Our first speaker is Jeff Mayer. Please step up and give us your address.
Thank you, Mark. Jeff Mayer, 1020 Valleywood Court. And I want to give some background on this, why we started this process and everything. And I was asked, because of some issues in one of our neighboring towns that they had relative to flight operations, in this case being helicopters, that we were exposed, and I saw that we were exposed to that same kind of situation. So I'm just trying to get ahead of being proactive to prevent us from having any issues through our town that would disturb our lifestyles and what we do today. So what we have in front of you is our draft ordinance. We're looking for input from the town. We're looking for input from the council members and their guidance in order to adjust it, massage it, do what we need to do with it, and then we're going to go with the town council, same type of thing for input and stuff. Was information put out that, you know, this is a pro-aviation ordinance. This is quite the contrary. It is not a pro-aviation ordinance as written. It is a pro-control of aviation ordinance. It's limiting it, requiring approval by the town for any type of activities inside the town. That's one thing our neighbors did not have. In fact, they are still working on that and still exposed to that. So we're just trying to be proactive from a town council, from a mayor's position, since I happen to be the mayor, and that's why this thing all got generated up. So,
Thank you. One thing I mentioned should be obvious. We are not taking action on this tonight. Again, that's why we're holding the public input open, the public hearing open. We're not taking action. So our next speaker is Jeannie Cartwright. State your name and address.
It's Jeannie Courtright, 8800 Justin Road. I guess the reason I'm up here is because of all the rumors about the helicopter and ordinance and permits, and I just wanted to state that I'm all for an ordinance that prohibits it, except of course if it's an emergency, because we've had a care flight on our property before. But I just think allowing permits opens the barn door. And I just don't think we need to compromise. And also, just the liability of whoever is going to issue those permits. You know, we don't know if that person is taking care of their helicopter or following safety guidelines or any of that other stuff. So I just came here because of all the rumors, and so that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ted Stranzik.
Good evening. Ted Stranzik, 1020 North Berry Trail Court. To say the least, I am against this ordinance. And I want to preface what I'm going to say with my experience on the issue. I've been in aviation for 50 years plus. It's been my career. I love it. I've been in every facet, domestic, international. I'm an A&P mechanic. I'm a type-rated captain in business jets. Got over 5,000 hours, which is not that much, really. I've got extensive flight experience in all categories of aircraft up through a 737. Not all, but most. And I've been involved in both civil and military aircraft, especially helicopters. I worked for Airbus helicopters for a number of years and gained an awful lot of experience in the type of manufacturing, disassembly, crash rescue, EMS, military operations, police law enforcement, all of that with reference to configurations on helicopters that do one thing: promote safety. And the people who fly it promote safety. I've got extensive regulatory compliance experience both with the FAA, the Helicopter Directorate here in Fort Worth, 4 other FAA regions, in addition to EASA, which is the FAA equivalent in Europe. And I've published an awful lot of papers in that area during my career. I've also been CEO of the largest fixed-base operation in Oklahoma, number 2 with Indianapolis, and it was a maintenance as well as fueling operation, one of the biggest in the Southwest. So I've got a good background on what I'm about to say. My view on aviation principles is first, safety, and second, regulatory compliance, both of which are absent from this document in gross numbers. The document, in essence, is a disaster as it is presently presented. There's no safety margin. It promotes high-risk operations. When you look at, anytime you want to do anything in aviation, the first thing you do is say you want to be safe or safer with whatever you do. In this case, you're promoting landing a helicopter in a field. You're calling it a helispot. That's not an aviation term. We're dealing with aviation here. We're dealing with federal air regulations, all of which, by the way, are absent from this document. Any reference to it is absent. It's disgusting. Why this document is even being presented is an embarrassment. And it's not going to get any better with revisions, believe me. The terms used in this document. In the business, you call an aircraft, and that's something with a fixed wing. A helicopter is a helicopter, not an aircraft, and it has a rotary wing. The two are separate and distinct entities, and this document bastardizes that whole presentation. You don't know what you're talking about. The absence of any safe operational procedures. If you're going to operate in a farmer's field, and the only guy who has authority, according to this, is the farmer saying, yeah, you can land out there, it's no problem. If you look in this document, you will find a detailed description of not a helispot, which is a dangerous title because it's not an FAA word, and therefore you own it. And if anything goes wrong, you better be able to explain it, and you can't, believe me. So again, the documentation here is completely out of focus. It's the type of ordinance that we don't need it. If we want to be safe in this town, let's come up with a noise ordinance. Let's come up with an operation that says no helicopters, no noise, the adverse effect of a flight path into a given spot in this town, you're going to go over homes and you're going to go over animals as well as people. And that you'll stampede those animals and they will injure themselves. It's a problem. And it's a problem that we'll be facing every time that this ordinance happens. It is unsafe to land in an area that has not been properly examined, inspected, and approved. They call for FAA approval on this. They haven't got any clue what they're talking about. FAA approval on this is a significant transaction, none of which is elaborated in here in any context. So, long story short, this ordinance is dead on arrival. And I would encourage everyone here to look at what we're doing. This is not safe. I wouldn't put my family in that particular situation. And yet we're doing it 3 times. It's crazy. So, sorry for the emotion, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted. Our next speaker is Nancy Henry.
Thank you for your service to the town. I'm Nancy Henry. I live at 761 Lonesome Dove Lane. In August of 2025, a friend notified me about Double Oaks public hearing for a heliport, which was withdrawn, and then they came back, and then the P&Z turned it down. My friend and former mayor of Double Oak suggested to me in August of 2025 that the town of Copper Canyon be proactive in creating an ordinance to prohibit, regulate helicopters. So it was me that contacted the mayor, Jeff, and asked him to look into Copper Canyon being proactive in creating an ordinance against helicopters in Copper Canyon. Contrary to what has been posted on social media, the mayor has never advocated for aviation in the town of Copper Canyon. And what I wanted to speak for is because I'm the one that started all this in August and asked him to look into it to be proactive. And I know this isn't a set deal, this ordinance, it's being tossed around for everybody to look at, talk about, and discuss, you know, like you said, Mark, for the next 4 meetings. And that's what all this is about, for the people to be able to discuss it. This isn't what I wrote in here. Jeannie called me the other day and said, Nancy, I got a yellow helicopter about to land on my property up here. And I don't know what's going on. And I said, well, just being proactive, trying to get the town to put something together so we can keep people from landing in our town. And that's all this is about, is discussing the ordinance, potential ordinance, because they don't even know if this is the final thing that'll come out. But I was the one that started it. It wasn't Jeff, and he doesn't want aviation in the town any more than anybody else does. And I have acres. They could land in my pasture. So, and I don't want that either. I've had hot air balloons land there, and it's not fun having them either. But accidents happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Next up, Jeffrey Hubbard.
Jeffrey Hubbard, 400 Clare Court. As Ted said, this is a very, very bad idea. I don't know if any of you attended the P&Z meeting at Double Oak or the town council meeting, but what allowed them to turn that down by that homeowner's request was the fact that their zoning didn't allow, they had no aviation areas. So it didn't fit their zoning. If we change our zoning to allow aviation, we have opened the door for when the guy in Double Oak comes over here and buys 5 or 10 acres, for him to be able to put a heliport. Now, the comment has been made, and I will actually read it, if I can. There was a comment that was posted on behalf of the mayor that said, we do not support or endorse heliports in our town. However, if you look at the way this ordinance is put together, it actually does allow for a permanent heliport. When you look at the permitting, it actually allows for a permanent heliport. So what we have done is we have opened the door to bringing in aircraft, bringing in helicopters. Yes, it's on a 3-time basis. But if I'm a multimillionaire and you're gonna fine me $2,000, do I care to pay the $2,000 fine? Of course not. I'm not a rich man, but if I really wanted to do it, I'd write you a $2,000 check so I could fly to Oklahoma State University and watch my Cowboys play football on Saturday. That's what he wanted to do. If we do this, there is no stopping. 3, there's no enforcement in this ordinance either. Yeah, there's a $2,000 fine, but who enforces it? Do I have to call up and tell the town? And then the town says, well, give me a tail number. Well, I don't have a tail number. There's no way to enforce this thing. Now, we've been doing some research, and Deborah, I believe you were at Fairview, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Fairview has an excellent aviation ordinance. Were you on the town council when that was passed?
I don't recall.
Okay. I would propose a counter proposal to this misguided effort. The way that the structure of the city of Fairview, their ordinance is put together, as Ted noted, it makes the entire town a noise-sensitive area. And it prohibits aviation operations in any area that is noise-sensitive. Now, it does not prohibit a helicopter from landing and taking off. Emergency use is emergency use. That's a blank check. They could land Care Flight every day for 365 days. What it does is it allows the town to issue a single-use permit once, one time, and that's it. We control it. The town knows when the person's coming in with a helicopter, when they're leaving with a helicopter, and they get one shot. Deborah, if you were part of this in Fairview, I applaud you.
Well,
It's an excellent
And
ordinance.
let me briefly speak to what went on in Fairview. One of Fairview, the big problems when I was on council in Fairview was the McKinney Airport. And we were having all kinds of problems with planes flying over our town. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Fairview is very similar to Copper Canyon in that it's all 1 acre plus lots. So that's the impetus, and Fairview has kind of battled the McKinney Airport for years.
It's an excellent ordinance. It controls, it doesn't completely stop it, so we're not taking away a citizen's right to have a helicopter take off and land, which is appropriate. But by the same token, it doesn't turn us into the Wild West, and we don't get the guy from Double Oak coming over here buying 5 acres, filing for a permit to build a heliport. And when we say, hey, you've done this 3 times already, he says, here's your check for $2,000. Here's your check for $20,000. I'm gonna do it 10 more times. This is misguided. I don't know who came up with it, but it's extremely misguided, and there is a better way to approach it. And if it comes before the P&Z, I would ask and expect the members of the P&Z to turn it down and send them back to the drawing board, because we know there's a better way to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next speaker is Mitchell Wexler.
Good evening. Everything that these people
Would
have
you
told...
give us your name and address, please?
I'm sorry, sir.
For the record, your name and address.
My name is Mitch Vexler, 4536 Mahogany Lane. For the record, everything that these people have told you, I agree with. However, I'm going to give it some teeth. Does anyone on P&Z and council know the noise level of a helicopter at 500 feet? The answer is 87 decibels. A helicopter taking off can produce noise between 100 and 120 decibels, depending on the type and condition. 120 decibels is considered painful and can cause hearing damage with prolonged exposure. 120 decibels is the equivalent to loud sounds such as a jet plane taking off, a thunderclap, or a loud concert. It can cause immediate hearing damage if exposure is for too long. What restrictions would be placed on hours of operation, pilot training, advertising pulled behind the helicopter? Do we have EMS that is trained in helicopter crash scenarios? If zoning is allowed to occur, what recourse, joint and severally liable, do the homeowners have with regard to the then zoning with regard to its enforcement by the town? What if the heliport operator decides to switch to jet engines on the helicopter? They do exist. Did anybody do a cost-benefit analysis with regard to lowering the property taxes that will be sued for as a result of the destruction of peace and quiet of the town of Copper Canyon and its neighborhoods? I know something about this. I'm the person that's responsible for forcing the Attorney General for the state of Texas to open a 1,000-school district investigation for property tax overvaluation. That was done 2 weeks ago. The questions I'm asking you are rhetorical, not for my benefit, but for the benefit of the town of Copper Canyon. I already know the answers. The point is that you don't, and you should, because if this zoning is approved, there's an extraordinarily high probability that multiple people on both P&Z and council will be sued, joint and severally liable for the damages from which the town does not have appropriate insurance. I agree with everything they've said. I'm adding the teeth. You'll do what you're going to do. Therefore, I'm hereby making demand, as this is recorded, for preservation of records by and between the applicant and every member of P&Z and council. Records include any and all payments, including check, cash, promises made, emails, letters, correspondence, and discussions between any P&Z member and city council member and town staff, including and between the attorneys for the applicant and the town. Those records are important. This zoning needs to be shut down. It will have an effect on property taxes. It will lower the revenue stream coming to this town, and I don't think anybody knows about it. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Those were all the people that I had listed. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? As previously noted, you will have another opportunity in 2 weeks, and I would urge you to hang around for a while. At 7 o'clock tonight, we will have the town council meeting. They will have a public hearing, and you may repeat your comments to the town council. So it's now 6:28. I will temporarily adjourn the public hearing. Before I do that, excuse me a second. I haven't asked anyone here whether they have any comments at this time. Does anybody on the council, on the commission have any council? Okay. Ted, you raised your hand.
Does anyone on the dais have any comments?
Well, that's what I was just asking, and no, we don't comment on it. Okay, so it's 6:28. We do temporarily table this public hearing until our next meeting in 2 weeks. So the next item on our agenda is a discussion of future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items that people wish to bring up other than this ordinance that's coming back in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring the conditional use permit, proposed modifications into that meeting.
All right. Sheila, you've got that on the agenda. Thank you. Anything else? I'm unaware of any reason for an executive session. Deborah, is there any reason we should have an executive
Not
session?
tonight.
All right, then we will skip that. So that being said, I now adjourn our P&Z meeting at 6:30. Thank you all for attending, appreciate it. And again, hang around for more excitement, town council at 7 o'clock.